All right, so let's go ahead and start graphing, and we want to find the domain and the range afterwards too. So we're going to start off with f of x equals negative 5 cosine of 2x. So already you can see that there's a 2 in front of the x. So let's take a look over here. We do have something with an amplitude, right? So you can see that there's a 5 in the front, so everything's going to be stretched by 5 units and then flipped for sure. But what we're going to do is this, whenever you have something other than an x here, let's go ahead and take care of this inside part. So we're going to take care of this guy right here. All right, and notice that this guy, there's no phase shift. Okay, remember, phase shift is only if you have a subtraction or addition of some other thing. In this case, you just have a multiplication of 2. So the only thing that's going to be changing is the period. So this is going to be a period change. So what would be my new period? So all we got to do is take, so the new period is going to be 2 pi divided by the absolute value of b, which in this case is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of 2 in this case. So this gives me just pi. All right. So this tells me that in one cycle, this guy is going to complete one whole cycle from 0 all the way to pi. Okay, there's no phase shift. So before, it was from 0 to 2 pi. Now this guy is going to be from 0 to pi. So let's go ahead and graph that. So this guy's going to go from 0 all the way to pi. Okay, so everything got compressed. Okay, so now it's going to be a faster period. So it's not, so it's complete one cycle before it reaches true pi. Now, one of the things that we need to figure out is look at all the intermediate points. If you look at the cosine curve, not counting the outside numbers, you have 3 points in between. So how do you find those 3 points in between? So the way that you do that is that you're going to have to add these two and divide by 2. So find the midpoint. So we're going to take pi, and then I'm going to add it to 0, and I'm going to divide it by 2. This is going to be midway. So midway between 0 and pi will be pi over 2, which makes sense, right? Because between 0 and pi, what's halfway between it? Well, it's half of a pi. Okay? Same thing here, halfway between 0 and pi over 2. So I can do 0 plus pi over 2 divided by 2. Well, this one's really easy, right? Isn't that just pi over 4? Which makes sense, right? 0 and 50 cents, half of it is just a quarter, right? Just pi over 4. And then midway between pi over 2 and pi, that might be a little harder. So midway between these two, so this will be pi over 2 plus 2 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2, which gives me 3 pi over 4. So this guy's going to be 3 pi over 4. Right? So from 1 all the way to negative 1. Remember, it's a cosine curve. So the cosine is going to start at 1, then 0, then negative 1, 0, and then 1. So knowing the shape of the cosine curve is going to be really useful. All right. Now that takes care of the 2x because that's just taking care of the x's that happened. So this is what the 2 did. It basically just divided everything by 2. Now what exactly is going to happen now with this 5? So not only am I shifting if I'm multiplying this by 5, but I'm also flipping it over. So imagine that now this guy is going to look something like this. So you still got same x's. I took care of the x's, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi. So now my x's are not going to go all the way to 5 and negative 5. So it's going to be a change in the amplitude. Now, not only is it doing that, but I'm also shifting, I'm shifting the graph. So from a positive 5 to a negative 5. So now in this case, instead of being at a positive 1, I multiplied it by a 5. It gets me all the way to 5. But now I'm flipping it. So now instead of a 5, it's going to be at a negative 5. So everything's going to go backwards. So this is going to be still at pi at 0. This guy, instead of being a negative 1, is going to be a positive 5. Then 0. And then at pi again, negative 5. So you can see that the graph got stretched up and flipped. So before it looked like a U, now it looks like, I don't know, some mountain. Okay. So this would be the final graph. So my domain would still be negative infinity to positive infinity. But my range in this case is going to be different because it's starting from I had to change an amplitude. So this is going to be from -5 all the way to 5, both of them included. There was no vertical displacement. All right. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do this guy. So this is now something with the phase shift. So you can see nothing is happening. There's no vertical displacement. There is no amplitude change. We just have period changes and a phase shift. Okay, so you can see here that now what we're looking at is a period change. Oops. Technical difficulties. Period change plus phase shift. So what we're going to do, okay, let's go ahead and rearrange this thing. So we're going to have this equals sine of, I'm going to factor out of 4. Okay, so this is going to be left with x minus, and remember, what would be the output here? What would this be? Remember, all we're just doing, whenever we factor, just like how we did here, whenever we factor, all we're just doing is dividing that value that we're factoring by this c value. So in this case, because I'm factoring out, I'm factoring out of 4, I'm just going to take this pi and just divide it by 4. And you can see that if I refoil this out, it'll cancel out the 4 and you'll get the pi back. All right. So now what do we have? So now we have the phase shift, right? So the phase shift, what it's doing, is going to move pi over 4 to the right. Okay, that's what this is saying. This pi over 4, that's saying that I'm moving everything pi over 4 to the right. Okay, and now not only that, but I have a new period as well. Okay, 4. Okay, so we got this 4. So what's going to be my new period? So my new period is going to be 2 pi over absolute value of p, which is 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. So what this is saying is that everything is going to be compressed by pi over 2 units. Okay, so everything is going to, the new period is going to be over pi over 2. Okay. So let's start with the new period first. So I know that it's going to complete 0 to pi over 2. Okay. So it's going to go from 0 to pi over 2. Okay, that's where it's going to complete one whole period. And remember, this is a sine curve. Right now, we're not going to worry about the intermediate points. Let's just pretend that. Oh, gosh. You know, we got there's 3 points, right? We're not sure quite what they're going to be. Okay, but let's just pretend that they're something. Okay, it's just going to look like that. Now, before we do that, because I don't want to do double work, what I'm going to do now is that I know that the whole cycle is going to go like this. All right, but for the new period. So this one takes care of the new period. And now what I got to do is I got to do the phase shift, right? Because not only did I compress this, but I'm also shifting this pi over 4 units to the right. So what's happening? So everything's going to be shifted over pi over 4 units. So this guy's going to be, oh gosh, why is this not working? Oh gosh, okay. Oh, there we go, okay. So I'm going to shift everything pi over 4 units. So So you can see here at 0, let's look at the starting point, the start. The starting point is at 0, and I'm going to move pi over 4 units to the right. Move pi over 4 units. So now this new point is now going to be, it's not at 0 anymore, now it's at pi over 4. This pi over 2, this is where it's going to end. It was at pi over 2. I'm going to go ahead and add pi over 4 units. It's going to give me 3 pi over 4. Okay, so you can either put this in the calculator or you can just put a 2 pi over 4, and then you'll see a 3 pi over 4. So this one's going to end at 3 pi over 4. All right, and now is when you want to find the intermediate points, because I didn't want to find them here because then I would have to add them over and redo them again. Now I got to find the intermediate points. Okay, so the 3 intermediate points. So let's first find the first one. So that one's going to be midway, so 3 pi over 4 plus pi over 4. So I'm going to find what the midpoint is here. It's going to give me 5 pi over 4 divided by 2. Oh no, that's wrong. This is going to be 4 pi over 4. It's 4 pi over 4, which gives me pi over 2. So halfway between these two guys is pi over 2. Now let's figure out this other term, this one, this middle one, that's going to be between pi over 4 and pi over 2. So I'm going to add these two guys and divide it by 2. So this is going to give me pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 divided by 2. 3 pi over 4 divided by 2, which gives me 3 pi over 8. Okay, so that's how I get this guy. So this guy's going to be 3 pi over 8. And now I'm going to have to find the midpoint between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. 3 pi over 4, so pi over 2 plus 3 pi over 4 divided by 2. So this is going to give me 2 pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4 divided by 2. This gives me 5 pi over 4 divided by 2, which gives me 5 pi over 8. All right. And now all we got to do is just graph the sine function. We know what the sine function looks like. Okay. We have no amplitude change. Still amplitude of 1. So it's 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0. So the graph is going to look something like this. And we're only graphing one period of this. So this is what it's going to look like. So what I really want is I want to see all of this work. I want to see the phase shift. I want to see the new period. I want to see the work for finding the intermediate points. Okay. So what will be the domain and range? Domain is super easy. Right? So the domain in this case will be negative infinity to positive infinity. And then the range will be from negative 1 to 1. So that didn't really change. Okay? Alrighty. So we got some other problems that are a little bit more advanced. We're going to do that in the next video.